Maybe there is no problem to be fixed. Maybe everything is exactly the way it should be. Maybe you don't need to fix yourself and your life is not a problem that you need to solve. Maybe the problem, if there is one, is that you believe there is a problem. Have you considered that possibility, that it's not really that something needs to be fixed, but rather it's to stop believing that there is a problem that needs to be fixed? But what if I'm in living situation that I don't really like? Well, what if that situation is designed for you so that you can grow through it, so that you can learn something through it? And I know that's a cliche, but what if it's true? What if there is nothing that needs to be fixed? What if your life is not a self-improvement project and you just need to experience it to the fullest? What if that was the truth? How would that make you feel? How would that make you see yourself and your life? But clearly, we have problems that we need to fix. Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe you don't have a place to stay. Maybe you have problems in your romantic relationships or any relationships. Well, why would you think that these things are problems that need to be fixed? Why don't you see them as this is just an experience that you need to go through? And maybe whatever needs to be fixed will get fixed. And you obsessively making effort to fix that is actually ruining your mental health, your emotional health, your health in general, because you believe there is something that needs to be fixed. Consider that possibility, because that may be the truth. It may just be that our lives are not something that we need to constantly try to fix. Maybe our lives are here for us just so we can go through them and experience the variety that life has to offer. Maybe that is the entire point. Maybe living this life, just the ultimate purpose of it is just to experience everything in this life that you are meant to experience in the first place. What if maybe everything that's meant for you will find you? Maybe the things you went through in your life were specifically designed for you so that they can create a version of you that is right here, right now. And the things you're going through right here, right now, may be just specifically designed for you so that you can become the next version of yourself and you can keep growing as a person. Maybe that is the entire point of life, is just to experience this growth that life has to offer us, this evolution of character, evolution of consciousness, evolution of whatever we are. We know we are not purely physical, we are spiritual beings in a physical form. We could say that. So maybe there is no problem to be fixed. Maybe you just need to let go of the constant chatter of the mind that always tends to seek problems to solve. Maybe that's the problem, if there is one. And what if you can't stop looking for a problem? Your mind is constantly looking for a problem to be fixed. What if you can't stop that? What if that's also okay? What if that's also not a problem? Maybe that's what you need to experience. Maybe your mind trying to always find the problem that wants to solve is the entire point of having a mind, to realize the principle of surrender and letting go, the principle of true, real acceptance, accepting yourself as who you are right here, right now, without any judgment, accepting the way your life is right here, right now, without any judgment. Maybe that is the entire point of everything. Maybe everything you've been through and you're going through is just here to, we could say, awaken you to the fact that um, life is not one major problem that needs to be fixed. And the more you can let go, the more you can surrender to whatever life experiences you have every single day. Maybe that is what everything is trying to awaken you to. Maybe it's the principle of surrender and acceptance, that you need to experience whatever it is that you're going through every single day. And by experiencing it, maybe you realize that you don't really have control over anything. The best you can do is just let go and move with whatever life presents you. Maybe that's the entire point, don't you think? Because that's what I've realized. For many years, I thought that this thing needs to be fixed, and when I get it fixed, then my life is good. And then something about me I didn't like, when that gets fixed, then I'm good. I can enjoy. But let me tell you that that moment where you say there is no problem cannot come from that same mind that always wants to solve a problem. Because if you're operating purely from the mind, which means the mind is basically what you're listening to all the time, maybe you cannot stop the mind from wanting to look for problems and then fix them somehow. Maybe we just need to embrace that this is what mind is doing, and just let it be and don't interfere with it, and just focus on something deeper than the mind, which is, there is a deep silence within you that is beyond what the mind can grasp. Maybe that's where we need to focus, to realize that there is no problem at all. And that's something you experience in meditation. If you have some experience with meditation for a while, you've been doing it, then you eventually reach a place or a point in your meditation where there seem to be no problems. Everything's cool. What if that's your true nature and the mind is just used to always look for problems and then try to fix them? Because everything in this world is trying to persuade you that there are problems, and then these problems you need to make effort to fix them, and that becomes your entire life. It's like problem after problem, and you fix it and fix it. But what if I tell you that if you can truly let go, but what I mean by that is you stop buying into the narrative that your mind tells you that there is always a problem that needs to be fixed. What if you stop buying into it? You cannot stop thinking, but you can stop believing that there is a problem, and you realize that there is never a problem. Everything is exactly the way it should be. What if once you realize that, you also see that when there are so-called problems in your life, your body and your mind, they automatically go through them and somehow find a solution with you, without you trying to somehow overly obsess over that problem, so-called. What if problems solve themselves, not in some magical way, but what if the body and the mind know exactly what to do for a so-called problem to be solved, and you don't actually need to do anything. You allow the body and the mind to do their job, and you just observe. What if you become the witness of your life instead of the doer of your life? And if you have learned some teachings from non-duality, you know this, that you as this ego are not the doer. You're not the doer of your life. Much closer to truth, which may not be the fullest truth, but it's much closer to truth, is that you are not doing anything. You are just witnessing your life. You're not really in control of anything. What if that was the truth? What if you just need to let go and witness what this life has to offer? You just go with the flow and you don't try to fix anything. You accept yourself, you accept your life, everything the way it is, you accept it fully, and you just, from that place, you just let go and allow yourself to experience whatever it is that you're experiencing. What if when you're going through a tough season in your life, you don't need to get out of that season by effort? What if you just need to embrace that season of struggle and suffering, let's say? And then once it's time, that suffering and pain and tough season will go away on its own. Because what I realized, that's how it happens. You don't get out of a dark place by trying. It just happens. You have no responsibility in this. You have no accountability in that. Because when you're going through whatever it is that you're going through, it doesn't have to be something very dark. Could be your everyday experience of life. Things kind of sort themselves out. And sometimes, yeah, you play a part in that solution. But what I'm getting at is that this life and you as a human being or a spiritual being in a human body, but let's call it a human being, you are not some project that you need to constantly fix and fine tune and always get better and improve. What if that entire thing happens just by itself? And what if your life moves without you having to do anything, without you having to constantly push things to move? What if they just move by themselves? Because what you realize is that if you say, I'm not going to make any effort whatsoever, I'm going to fully let go, and I'm not going to do anything, what you realize is that your body will start doing something. You cannot just sit there and do nothing forever. Your body will get up and it will start doing something, because you, as who you believe you are, the I, when you say I am, you know that you are. No one can tell you you are not. You know, I am. I am here. This is me. You have that sense of I am. Well, that same feeling of I am is not what's doing all the effort. The body is being moved by your life force energy, and it's being moved and guided by that life of force energy to make certain things in life. So there is literally no point in you interfering with that and constantly trying to solve the next problem. What if you just let it be, and you just allow the body to do its thing, you allow the mind to do its thing, and you just witness this experience. What if that is much closer to living a more peaceful existence? What if that's the key to peace? It's to realize that you are not doing your life. You're just experiencing it. You're witnessing your life. You're not ultimately the one who is doing the effort, and you're not ultimately the one who is solving problems and so on. But if you believe you are, then you have this great burden that you're carrying all the time by believing that you're somehow responsible for everything that happens in your life. You're responsible for how you react. You're responsible for everything. That's a very heavy burden that the world and society tries to persuade you of believing into. What if the only thing you can do is to either choose peace or to avoid it? What if that's the only decision you can make? You can choose peace. How do you choose that? By disidentifying with your ego. Because if you believe that you are the doer, which is basically part of your ego, if you believe you're that same ego that does everything in your life, of course, um, you will suffer all the time. And because the mind always finds a problem. That's the thing with the mind. The mind never says there is no problem. There is always a problem for the mind. So what if you stop believing into that and just choose to let things be the way they are? Choose yourself be the way you are. Don't always try to improve yourself. Always try to become the next version of yourself. What if you just take a back seat and you observe and witness the unfolding of your life? What if that's a way better way of experiencing this life than it is to purely believe 100% that you are doing the things you're doing? What if the life force is that the thing that does all the effort and you have no say in that? Wherever your life force flows, it will flow. You can't stop it. Like, for example, me doing this video. It's not something I consciously choose to do. It may seem like it. Okay, I get up, I set up the camera, and I press record, and I talk. It may seem like I'm choosing to do this, but if you observe closely, you see that there is life force that's coming up and is making me do that. And I didn't choose what this life force wants to do. So the best thing I can do is just get out of the way and let the life force do whatever it wants to do and take zero accountability for that. Whatever here is being said, I'm not really responsible for that. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I don't know how I will react in the next challenging situation. That's also not up to me. If you look up Ramana Maharshi, probably you have heard of him. Very wise man he was, a sage. Very, very introspective and just yeah. The people who were around him, they totally knew that he knew something that most people don't know. And what he says, Ramana Maharshi, you can check it out. You can check him out. He has books and everything, but you can also find a lot of his quotes and works online. Um, he said that you are not the doer of your life, and whatever is destined for you to happen you may do your best to prevent it from happening, it will still happen. And whatever it is that it won't happen, it doesn't matter how hard you try, it will not happen. That's what he said. And he also said that the body mind was already set in place once once you're coming into this life. It's already been set out what the body mind will do during this lifetime, and you can't change that. And the only thing you can do is find the self, which that self he's talking about is something beyond the mind. It's your true nature, that it's just something that it's always present within your consciousness, and it's the center of your consciousness, so to say. And it's that witness of everything. What if you point your attention there? And he also goes further to say, which I've now realized lately, that to make this life useful means to realize the self, and there is nothing else to do. And I can truly see that there is really nothing else to do than to realize the self, to go on that inner journey and discover your true nature. And by doing that, you see that you are not the doer of your life. Everything that this body mind does, it does on its own. You don't have to interfere with it. You don't have to force it to do things. And I realized this lately, um, because my life force energy, it no longer wants to go out now. It starts going within. It's shifting directions from always going out, now it's going within. And I realized that the things I'm doing in my life, I realized I'm not really doing them. It's more of a, you don't choose what you're going to do. What you're going to do chooses you. That's way closer to the truth than you believing you're doing something in your life. So if you have never read anything about Ramana Maharshi, definitely check him out. Very wise person. And you can dive deeper into his work and see for yourself why what he spoke about was actually the truth, and you realize that um, there is nothing else to do in this life. Everything else gets done by itself. The only choice you have is, where are you going to place your attention or your awareness? That's what I found is the only real choice you have. You don't have choice about anything else. The only choice you have is, where are you going to place your attention? Are you going to place it on the mind, on external things, on the world? Or are you going to reverse that attention back to itself, we could call it, and find what's being aware of everything? What is it that is perceiving everything? What is it that is aware of your thoughts? What is it that is aware of your emotion? And that's the only choice you can make. Where are you going to place your attention? And this is how also for most people enlightenment happens, is that they place their attention long enough within until they realize that they're not doing anything. They are just experiencing this life. So if you have not realized this, and by realized I mean you saw it really, that you're not responsible for anything in your life. And I know that may seem a dangerous belief, but it's not really belief. If you look closely, you see it for yourself. You can't predict the next thoughts you're going to have. You can't predict what will happen in 10 minutes. So why do you believe that you're somehow responsible for all of these things? If you can't choose your thoughts, You can't choose what you're going to feel. Why do you think that you can choose your actions? Because your actions stem from your thoughts and feelings. And if you ultimately cannot predict what these thoughts are going to be, which actions stem from these thoughts, if you're not responsible for what thoughts go in your mind, and if you try to control your thoughts, you'll see that it's impossible to do. And it's not something you should try to do, because you just get burned out and exhausted. So if you can't predict your thoughts truly in the next seconds and so on, and your actions stem from your thoughts, then why do you believe that your actions are something you need to be responsible for? Now, here, don't understand this wrong. I'm not saying that there is no sense of responsibility. I'm not saying that there is not a feeling of, I am here and I choose to do this with my time. That appearance will still be there, because that is the play of the game. But don't identify yourself with everything that you're doing. Don't identify yourself with everything you're thinking. Detach from all of these things and see that they will still continue happening without you doing even the slightest effort. Everything that needs to happen will happen by itself. If the body is meant to do something, it will do it. You can't stop that. So that's what I'm getting at. It's not that there is no sense of responsibility and you should just feel free to, let's say, harm yourself or others or do drugs or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you can't really choose what this body is going to do. All you can choose is, are you going to be identified with this body mind, or are you going to detach and find your true nature, which is witnessing this entire experience, and rest in that? That's the only choice you really have. Other than that, everything happens by itself. Whatever the situation requires, the body does. Whatever, again, the situation requires, your mouth says whatever needs to be said. So these things happen by themselves without you trying to force them in any way. So the problem, we could say, if there is a problem, there is not, but if there is a problem, then the problem would be that you believe you're the body mind. You believe that there is still a problem. Once you realize there is not a problem at all, everything is exactly the way it should be at any moment in your existence, then you become free. Then you become this peace of just is with you. The peace is with you because now there is nothing to fix. And you stay as long as possible in that state of being. And that becomes your main spiritual practice during your everyday life. You can be completely still within without identifying with your mind and still perform the duties you need to perform, still do the work you need to do in your life, still engage in relationships. You can totally do these things all the time. You can totally, let's say, build something meaningful in your life, but you're not the one who is actually doing that. The real you, who you feel you are, is actually just witnessing all of this, but it's deluding itself and taking responsibility for everything that the body mind does. So the spiritual work becomes for you to stop identifying with that. And the more you can do that and rest as that state of being, the more free you become, and the more you actually realize, wait, there was never a problem in the first place. It was just the mind convinced me that there is always a problem that needs to be fixed. there is something wrong about me, there is something wrong about my existence, my life, that needs to be fixed and needs to be improved. If you just stop believing into that story that the mind is narrating, you see how much freer you become. And again, that's a practice. That's not for most people, and I'm one of these most people. It doesn't happen in a sudden moment where you realize this, but you actually stop identifying with your mind. You reject the thoughts, basically, or you let them be, however you want to frame it. You don't engage in the thoughts. Whatever thoughts come, you let them be, and you just don't buy into them. Thoughts will try to get your attention because the mind knows you very well. It knows what your desires are, it knows what your worries are, it knows what your fears are. So it knows how to get your attention, and your only job in this life is to not pay attention to that and just be present all of the time. That will make you free. That will make peace something that is a living truth in your life. And that is the main objective of the spiritual work. It's to realize you're not the doer, and the only choice you have is, are you going to identify with your mind, or are you going to find your true self, so to say, which is the witness of everything? So yeah, there is a lot to be said on this topic. I could talk even more, but we're already at 30 minutes. So I will for sure do more videos on this topic, because it's a very potent realization to see that you're not responsible for your actions and thoughts and anything. You can only have this one single choice: to be still and to not buy into what the mind is saying, and just be present. That is truly the only choice you have. So I will be making more videos on this topic in the future. I record videos, whatever inspiration comes to me, whatever it's on my heart and mind, I share it. So if you're new, feel free to follow this channel. And yeah, if you're not new, feel free to share your experiences in the comment section down below. Have you already realized this truth? Are you sensing truth here? Or have you already realized it? Or does it not resonate with you at all? Just let me know what your life experience is in the comment section down below, and maybe we can start small conversation there. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and share whatever is on your mind and heart. And yeah, so that will be for today. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. I hope that you realize something out of it, you got something out of it. If that's the case, my job here is done. If not, then you may need to keep going on that path to realize what I've just shared here, but you will eventually realize it, because there is no going back. Once you start this spiritual work, there is no going back. You will keep doing it, and you will start realizing more and more and more, and it will just, the realization will become deeper and deeper and deeper. And again, that's not something you need to force, that's not something you need to do. It just happens by itself whenever the timing is right, we could say. So don't force anything, accept things the way they are, and don't buy into what the mind says. Just let it be, and don't hold on to any thoughts. Be present. That is a very potent teaching. Just be present. Don't buy into what the mind says. Don't buy into the story the mind narrates all the time, and you'll be good. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video. I wish you a wonderful day. Bye bye.